So welcome to Grief is the Word. This is a video series of chats in recognition of National Grief Awareness Week. And today we're focusing on the topic of COVID deaths and also the Yellow Heart movement as well, which is, I know, something that the Good Grief Trust are fully supportive of and also keen to recognise as well. So this has come out of the Good Grief Trust and their themes for National Grief Awareness Week. And of course this situation is very, very, still very real. It's still happening. We're all, living this as well. And as it stands at the moment, as of today, just a couple of statistics really, it's reported on the government website that there are 66,713 deaths due to COVID. And also with the Yellow Hearts group, there is 6.5 thousand members, which I just find absolutely amazing, actually. So I'm really fortunate actually to be joined here today by Annette and Sian and Emma and Lesley, who've all had direct experiences of losing a loved one to COVID. And I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you all for joining me here, and just for being, I just feel like it's just like a really brave thing to do, to come into this space and really share, your experiences today. So thank you for doing that. And I was actually overwhelmed by the response when I posted in the Yellow Hearts group to see if anybody wanted to come on and join this discussion today. So I guess I'm really curious, and I'd love to just throw this out as a first question really to all of you, is to understand what is it about this discussion then that you felt you wanted to kind of come on and talk about this today? What is it that's, perhaps important to you about this?
I think for me personally, I know everyone is in a different situation regarding who's passed and who, but for me, my dad was quite young. He'd just turned 62, and he had no previous medical conditions or anything. So for me, I know a lot of talk originally was it was affecting the elderly and the vulnerable, pre-existing medical conditions. Obviously for us that wasn't the case. My dad was never ever ill, and even before he went into hospital with COVID, he was okay. He was poorly, but he was okay. Okay. And when he actually went into hospital, he was still talking. We FaceTimed him just before the ambulance came. There was no kind of. We just thought it'd be a bit of a drama queen, as we'd always joke about. And he would go in, have a bit of oxygen, and be home in a couple of days. But it wasn't, and it's literally changed our lives completely. It's turned it upside down, and I've been robbed of a dad, and my sister has, and my children have been robbed of their beloved pops, who, he had so much more to do. He had more holidays to do. He wanted to spoil his grandkids more. He wanted to, what I mean? It's, and I just think for me, it was the comments that I see a lot of, and even when my dad was in hospital fighting for his life, it was, I bet how old is he though? Is he out? Is he elderly? And did he have something wrong with him before? No, no, he didn't. And we are not the only family to be going through it. There's thousands and thousands of families just like me, that like us, that are doing that. So I think for me, I'm really channeled into saying it can happen to anybody, because you would never have dreamt my dad, who was like 6'3", big strong man, to be killed by this virus. You just would never have imagined it.
Yeah, so there's that real sense of wanting to raise awareness about the virus itself, and some of the, I suppose, dispelling some of the myths that are out there at the moment. Is that true for anybody else? Does that feel important to you as well?
Yeah, I think so. So my husband was 45 when he died in April. And I think very similar, it's that this can happen to anyone. This is not a selective disease. This does not pick its victims. It literally can happen to anyone. So I think for me, it is about raising awareness. But I think what's equally been hard this year is the grief process, if you like, that everyone expects you to go down, is very, very different, and it's been incredibly challenging because you can't grieve in the way you might normally grieve. So after my husband walked to the ambulance, I never saw him again. I didn't see him in hospital, other than we were very lucky that our hospital let us Skype for the last week, so I could Skype him, but he was unconscious, he was heavily sedated, he was ventilated, so we never heard his voice, we didn't speak to him. From that moment he walked to the ambulance, that was it for us. And we had a 10-year-old daughter, so I've been trying to help her with that as well. You know, in the middle of the night, 3 paramedics came in, took her daddy to hospital, and then her daddy never came home. And it's been really challenging. So I think it is that, and it's exactly as Sian said, there's that, this isn't just a disease that only affects X person, it genuinely can affect everyone, and the aftermath of that for so many thousands of people has just been horrific.
Hi, sorry, Lesley.
Sorry.
My dad was in a care home and had only been there 6 months. The guilt that my mum carries for the fact that he had dementia and it had been a long journey, and she'd been his sole carer for a very long time, and she's in her 80s, and dad was physically well, but dementia had really taken him from us. So to have placed him in somewhere where we thought he was going to be safe, and he was only there for 6 months, and my mum cannot get rid of that guilt. Why didn't I keep him at home? If he wasn't in the care home, he wouldn't have passed. And they were isolated, so we thought, great. We didn't see him, obviously, because they shut down a long time before everybody else. But a COVID patient came in from hospital, and 7 of them passed away. And that is, I don't know, it just takes your breath away. It really does. And like you say, the not getting to see him, got a phone call, and within 24 hours, we were told he was on end of life care. Never got to see him, asked to FaceTime him, and they said, you really don't want to see your dad like this, which has lived with me forever, because I don't know how bad it was. I remember going to the care home and just standing in the car park and looking at the building and screaming, because I just wanted to go in and be with him. And just an awful end. And a 19-year-old boy carer held my dad's hand while he passed away. 19 years old. I mean, it's just been horrendous. And I've channeled my grief because I was very angry. And I've just channeled it with I wanted, it's funny, when I walked down the street, I wanted to shout at people and say, my dad died of COVID and you don't know that. And I thought I need people to know. So that's why I thought it'd be nice for people to wear badges to recognise each other in our grief. So that's our story. So
I was going to say as well, I think the big impact of this whole thing, you know, you've got the grieving process that everybody goes through, which has obviously been, I think, intensified by people having to grieve perhaps alone, not with their families, but also the fact that of the funeral, you know, not being able to have people at the funeral say, you know, a proper goodbye, not being able to know that your loved ones are dressed in their own clothes, you know, all those things that you probably think don't matter suddenly become huge in a situation like this. You know, just the fact that you couldn't like dress them in the favourite outfit was like, I know my mum is probably going to come back and haunt me for that. You know what I mean? Because she planned her own funeral at 97. She was, you know, quite realistic about dying, and planned a funeral and knew everything that she wanted, but we weren't able to meet those wishes because of the situation. and that leaves you feeling guilty, but also it's really hard to, you know, I think funerals, when you see the amount of people there that love the person that you love, you know, it does give you some comfort. But then when there's just a handful of you, there was 6 at my mum's funeral, you know, and it just seemed empty, really empty. And I think that can put a really sort of intensifies the grief. Personally, I don't know about other people, but I've just felt that, you know, not being able to have people there that love the person like you love them, and to share the memories of that person with that you normally do, and then just at the end of it having to go home, you know, just walk away and just go home, for me on my own, was really, really difficult.
Does that feel true for others?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said earlier, I have a 10-year-old, and so the day my husband died, we were still in lockdown. He died in April, so there was nowhere was open. It wasn't even that I could take her out for dinner. I couldn't go and do anything with her. And when I got the call from the hospital to say he'd died, it was then, all right, so what do I do with this? I can honestly remember feeling, well, what am I meant to do with that piece of information? There's no point me ringing anyone because no one can do anything. I'm on my own here. And it was just that sense of real isolation was, well, what do I do with that information? It was really odd. Whereas I think normally if, you know, tragically there'd been a car accident or something like that and the police had turned up and told you, you could have rung someone straight away and said, I need you here now, come round now. Whereas no one was allowed in, no one could come in, no one could come and help us. And so we were in the middle, ironically, of watching Frozen when I got the call from the hospital. And I can remember saying to my daughter, all right, let's go and finish watching the film, because I didn't know what else to do. It was just that I was like, I don't know how to process this piece of information, because I have to tell her I'm on my own. And then we finished the film, and then I was like, right, it's dinner time. I need to cook you dinner, because I just kind of went on autopilot going, I don't know what else to do. I don't know how to process this information. And yeah, very much the same as you, Lesley. The funeral, there was just people lined our street, and they lined going to the crematorium, but which was lovely, and in a way was really comforting and nice, because you wouldn't normally see that, because everybody would have been at the crematorium, and so no one would have lined the street. But that the 10 of us in the crematorium, and then coming out and then going, all right, I'm just going to go home now and be a mum to my 10-year-old, and I can't even get takeout, as daft as that sounds. I was like, right, well, that's it then. It was, and for me, I was very disengaged with the whole funeral process to begin with, because I was like, this isn't what I want. I'm just do whatever. So absolutely, totally agree, Lesley.
I think we were very, I think it depends where you live, but we were just very lucky that the crematorium or the funeral directors did let us comfort each other during the service. There were only 10 of us, and I did get to see Dad in the Chapel of Rest, because I hadn't been able to see him. I just insisted that I got to see him. But you know, that I don't know if I regret that or not, because it wasn't him, if you know what I mean. But we had a nice enough funeral, and what was really strange, and I felt was so I don't know, it just, the fact that we put it out on the web, it was recorded so that people who couldn't physically come could join us, which was very surreal thing to do. And I actually have the recording, and I think, well, what the hell do I do with that? Do I think, oh, it's Friday, shall I, replay that? I just don't know. It's there, and I will never delete it, but whether I'll ever watch it again, I don't know. But my mum is a twin, and her sister lives very locally to her, and they've shared their whole lives, and couldn't comfort each other, couldn't have a hug, and that just was killing my mum, that they couldn't do that. And then on the day of the funeral, they Dad was brought to the house, and like you say, the neighbours came out and everything. And I'll never forget it. My mum at 88 running down the road when she saw her sister and just wrapping herself around her because she couldn't contain that, not sharing her grief with her sister who she'd shared her whole life with. So that was very, very very emotional moment for us all. So yeah,
we were quite, I'm not going to say lucky, because we're not lucky to be in the situation we're in, but fortunate, I think, that when my dad was in intensive care, and my mum had the call to say that actually that it's just the machine that's keeping him alive now, they allowed my mum, me and my sister to actually go and be with him when we turned the machines off. So I know, because a lot of people didn't get that. So I find that for me, I mean, we find ourselves that we were fortunate to at least get that. But then say, you know, it was absolutely the most traumatic thing I've ever been through. And just having to get the full PPE on, the gown, the gloves, making sure your hair's back, the mask that is so tight. You felt like you were having a panic attack because it was so tight. Then you had the visor, and then I will never ever forget that, walking into that intensive care unit, and it was like something out of a film. That is the only way I can describe it. And my dad I walked in first, and I literally saw my dad straight away, and the doctors and nurses in there, none of them they were all crying. Every single one of their patients was in the same situation as my dad. We were the third family in that evening, and we weren't going to be the last that evening either. And I can just remember we took pictures in and things for them to which never got there in time, but we took them in that night when we went to say goodbye. And the nurse, she was just in floods of tears, and obviously we were crying. You know, I look back and I think, oh my God, it was just like something like you watch on a film. You know, you can't. And they just said to us, just let us know when you're ready. And it was like, we're never going to be ready. I don't want to even say, okay, we're ready, you know. And you've got this full PPE on. All I wanted to do was just take it all off, because it was just my dad. I didn't care. I know I'd already had COVID anyway. I'd had it previously. And I just wanted just to touch his skin. I just wanted to kiss it. We couldn't do any of that because of the shield, everything. You couldn't do anything. All you could do was just sit and hold the hand, or, you know. And it was just horrific. So fortunately we were to have that chance to be with them, you know. And again, I'll be forever grateful that we were there until the end with him. It was traumatic. And yeah, I mean, I always say about the doctors and nurses and the care we received as a family that night, I will never forget, because those nurses went above and beyond. They went above and beyond. I was a heap on the floor. They helped me up. They took me to him. They took off all my stuff after they'd already been out, and just to get all themselves clean, they came back in to help me and my family. You know, I'll never ever forget that. Ever forget the care they gave us, ever. It was, you know, they couldn't do enough. And I just think, God, they did that 12 hours and are still doing it now. Still doing it now.
Yeah, I mean, thank you all for sharing, because it's they're such different experiences, aren't they, as well? And it sounds and feels a lot to me like, you know, there's grief, and then there's the added sort of layers of the shock and trying to navigate that. And also this, you know, feeling disconnected and isolated from other family members or friends or people that would potentially, you know, normally be there for you has been really difficult.
I say, for sure. And it's like going to plan the funeral as well, having to go alone to go and do that. Just the practicalities of everything, you know. Having to drive yourself behind the hearse, you know, following that hearse, driving the car. You can't see, you know, because you're just like in bits, and just little things like that. I just think people don't realise the situation and how it's made things so much worse in terms of, you know, and it's the same for people as well that haven't died through COVID, but have died during this whole period of time is as well. You know, they've all experienced that isolation, if you like, of not being able to be with your friends and your family. You know, seeing my daughter break down in tears, but not being able to hug her, just like touching fists. It was the hardest thing ever, you know, sat in a crematorium in a row on my own. You just don't imagine it, do you know? And you can't imagine how difficult it is. You know, I feel like shouting at people sometimes. Yeah, have you ever been to a funeral, you know, and you've come out and you've felt quite warm about it, haven't you? You've felt like that was such a nice service for that person, and it's made you feel a little bit better because it was so nice. But I don't think that's happened for anybody in a service during lockdown. You've just come out and it's just all been totally, you know, well, you know, it's happened, hasn't it?
I think in that respect, I was fortunate, to use Sian's word. So our friend is a minister, so she took the service for us. So she knew my husband, we're godparents to her children. So that did make the service feel that little bit more familiar and just give that little bit more support, because I think you're right, if it had been someone that didn't know him, it would have just been even worse. So in that perspective, we were fortunate. But yeah, it's just one of those, this whole grief, I think I've joked to people, I'm like, the minute people are allowed to hug me again, I think I might break, because that physical contact isn't there. You know, normally people would be holding you up throughout your grief, throughout everything. And so my husband died on the 19th of April, and nobody other than my daughter hugged me until the 9th of July, which was when I formed a bubble with my sister. So that was, you know, my daughter has been phenomenal throughout this, and they say that children are very resilient, and I suspect if I hadn't had her, probably would have stopped getting out of bed each morning. I'd have just hidden under the duvet, to be quite honest, but she gives me a reason to keep going. But yeah, it's almost like a delayed grief, because you can't adjust to a normal life either. We can't begin to move forward with our life, not move on, but move forward with our life, because we're in a period of lockdown again. And you know, I found this week has been particularly challenging. So my daughter's having to isolate from school, so she's at home all the time with me, which is taking me right back to March, April, when he was ill and when he first died. And I've been in tears every day this week, because it's almost like it's reminding me of that and taking me right back to there, and I don't want to go back there. So this grief is literally like that all the time. And I know they say that grief isn't linear, but I think all of us that are going through this are finding that more than ever this year.
And I think it's because it's everywhere we go. You can't escape it. There's COVID everywhere you go. So it's on the news, it's on posts, it's in the shops, you see people wearing masks. It's constant. It's that constant reminder of what took your loved one. It's all, you know what I mean? So you there's no escaping it. And then it's on the, you know, it's constant on the news, on the TV, it's on adverts, it's on, you know, it's constant. So you don't ever have a bit of an escape. You constantly live in that moment and what you've been through.
Do you ever find as well with the I had a real problem with everyone just being a number. That really affected me a lot. And now every day, and it was in the 600s again the other day, and I was screaming at the TV. I mean, it's just, I don't know. And you just think all those other families that are now having to go through what we've been through, and it's not just the immediate family, is it? It spans out. You know, if you think about it, people who know people, family, it goes, you know, into big numbers, and it affects so many people.
I think that's a really good point, Annette. I think that, and I was thinking about that right at the beginning of this video as I read out that statistic. It's really important, and one of the things I'm fully on board with for National Grief Awareness Week is that this is about people. You know, these are real people, real losses, real, you know, loved ones, family members. It's more than statistics. And I think, you know, whilst having that information may be helpful in some areas, I think it also sort of depersonalizes to a certain extent, and doesn't necessarily help to convey the messages that you're all sharing today about, you know, raising awareness. So yeah, I think that's a really, really, really valid point, Annette. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I wanted to ask you, you know, whilst there's been this ongoing situation that you're all kind of living in and obviously reminded, and feeling slightly isolated, what are some of the things that have actually helped you, that may have brought some comfort?
Definitely.
All the groups that I've met on social media, because where I live, the numbers were very low. We're tier 2 now, and the numbers are sadly increasing here. And the groups have been, I don't know what I'd have done without the groups, the Yellow Heart groups, the COVID bereaved groups, the names not numbers. I think I've put Dad's name on every single thing out there. I'm, you know, a tree will be planted in his memory, his name's at St Paul's, he's in a cloud somewhere on something else. I just have found the groups a huge help, and it's because we're all of a similar, you know, we're all going through a similar kind of story. So I have felt that has really helped a lot.
Lesley, did you want to say something before?
I was just going to say, definitely the groups. I think it helps you feel less isolated, less alone. You can see that there's people there that are going through what you're going through. You help each other, you know, and it's just total strangers, but you're all connected through this, you know, one common thread. And it kind of pulls you close together, really, because only people who are experiencing it will know, you know, what it's like. It's not like, you know, normal bereavement. I don't think I've lost, you know, I lost my husband 18 months ago, and my sister-in-law 2 years ago. But this is totally different. And I know it's because it's a different person as well, but the situation, and I think that the groups have really proved helpful with that, because everybody is in that situation. We're all going through the same process in the same sort of way, if you like, and it's just nice to know that there's people there that are having good days, people there that are having bad days. It can lift your spirits when you see it. You can empathize with people, and sometimes it just brings you to thinking, you know, actually my situation isn't that bad, because look at this person, look what they've got going on. And it kind of can drag you out of it a little bit sometimes, and I think you need that when it all gets a bit much. But I just think the groups have been fantastic, and it's given the recognition to the loved ones that we've had, because I feel that they need to be recognised and not just a number. And until people put a face, they don't ever understand that problem, I don't think.
I think I'd echo what Lesley and Annette have said. So I actually ordered my pin badge from Annette, so it's lovely to be on this and to meet her in the flesh, because I think that's it, is that we're not in the flesh, but you know what I mean. But I think that's it, isn't it? You're meeting strangers who absolutely get what you're going through. And I've also joined the charity Widowed and Young, because as much as I've got support from my friends and from my family and from my colleagues, they don't get it. Not because they don't try, they just don't understand what it's like to suddenly find yourself widowed at the age of 39 with a 10-year-old. And so the groups on Facebook, and, you know, on Father's Day, when I was like, why is my daughter fine and I'm falling apart? This is weird. Like, why isn't she falling apart? And me going, oh, it's all right, it's all right. So being able to post in these groups and say, is this normal? I don't know, you know, because I think that's it. And So just people coming back going, oh yeah, no, we've experienced that, don't worry, and you know, my child's done this. And I think it's just that, it's that having that comfort from strangers who just simply get it and understand. And I recorded a podcast a few months back that's just released, and I had a contact from a lady in just outside of New York to say, I've listened to your podcast, it totally resonated with me, there were so many similarities with my husband, I get what you're going through. And it's like, it's just so nice, because then I listened to her podcast and it was like listening to me talking. So, and then you strike up a conversation. I've never met her, but that solidarity and has been so helpful.
I've had badges have been sent out all over the world now, actually, and people, you know, write to me, and I hear their stories, I learn about their families. And in America, you know, they said they're getting no sort of, there's nothing like this, and they're joining our Yellow Hearts groups and everything from Australia, New Zealand, Canada. You know, badges have gone out all over, and they are just joining in, like, you know, we're all one, and it doesn't matter where you're from, your circumstances. It's a very unique club, basically.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I joined the Yellow Hearts group, and you know, I haven't lost a loved one to COVID, but it was just, I just wanted to kind of be in that community to see if there was any way that I could kind of help and, you know, just support the cause, I guess. And I just found from the minute I got into that group, it was a very profound experience for me, because having been on the outside and just observing things on the periphery and then being in the group, and as you said, seeing, as you said, Lesley, seeing faces and actually getting a sense of connection to these people, and some of the, you know, understanding as well, you know, having worked in bereavement for quite a few years, but then understanding some of the more complex challenges that you were facing really sort of helped me to understand better. And I think that is one of the fantastic things about the Yellow Heart movement. So what does it mean to you, the Yellow Hearts movement specifically?
Well, I mean, again, it's just a coming together of people, and it was the Gompertz family that started it, with Grandad wanting to put a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree, sort of thing, and then Hannah and his other granddaughter making it private. Well, I think it was public first, and then they felt like people wanted to have a more private place. They didn't want to be trolled, basically, and, you know, get some horrible people in saying horrible things. So I think the private group is just that. It is very private, and it's just an awareness. And I haven't met anybody in the street yet wearing a yellow heart, but one day I will, because it's just, you know, becoming more and more, it's getting bigger and bigger. So yeah, I just find it's almost like a family. And when I see people posting now, I know their names, I know the faces of their loved ones that have passed, and yeah, and we chat off of the group as well now. We have actually, you know, made friends almost. So yeah, it's a community, and a very special community. So,
what about for you, Sian?
Yeah, I mean, I wear it all the time. And I've also got the mask with the yellow heart on as well. And I do, yeah, I think it's like I say, it's raising awareness, and I wear it for my dad. I like to think that I'm wearing it and he's with me, you know, and we had jewellery made with his ashes and things in as well, you know, and I just what I feel like is, you know what I mean? So you've got the yellow heart, and it's like, that's for my dad. And I'm, you know, and if you go into a supermarket and you see someone that's not wearing a mask, or you hear someone moaning about it, I just think, it's all right, it's all right, I've got this, it's all right. And then you just carry, you know, it's just that a bit, I think it's just a bit of, I don't know, bit of protection maybe. I don't know, but definitely that, I say, always look out for somebody, if, you know, if ever you see, not that you want to see anybody, you know, but you just think, well, whenever I do see someone with a yellow heart, I can say, oh my God, you know, I know exactly what you're going through. You know, it's, yeah, I haven't yet. I've had one person ask me what it means, which was, it was nice in a way, you know, it is nice. And I managed to tell them without getting upset. But yeah, you know, I said, you know, and they're like, oh, okay, yes. So I thought at least if one more person knows about it, then I've done something, you know, to raise more awareness.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just, it's like, so I've just lost the words really. It's just listening to your is just, I think, you know, in terms of what you are doing with your experience as well, you know, in terms of wanting to raise awareness and helping to make that positive change for me is just so inspiring. I mean, and they, you know, people do say, having worked in grief for such a long time, that, and obviously it's early days for all of you as well, but positive change can come from, you know, very, very difficult and very tragic circumstances. So it's just really great to hear you all, I guess, finding some of that for yourselves as well. So I guess what I wanted to just ask, just to kind of finish off really, is just to, I don't know, maybe share perhaps a few words just to close off really. And if there are people watching this, you know, that may be really struggling right now with their grief, as you said, Lesley, whether it's, you know, they may have just lost somebody not directly related to COVID, but in this current pandemic, which is, you know, difficult, has its own challenges. So just to ask what you would want to share or say to people that might be, you know, really struggling themselves as well.
I think I just say, take one day at a time. Literally one day, or even half a day at a time. Because some mornings you can wake up and you think, oh, okay, you feel okay today, but then you'll see something, or you'll hear a song, or you'll something will, you know, there's so many triggers around with everything, you know, that's personal for me, my, you know, my dad, and for other people, so on, and then it will just literally set you right back down to step one again. And then the rest of the day you'll feel really rubbish, or you'll wake up in the morning and you'll feel really rubbish, but then something will happen and you'll think, okay, no, actually I feel like it's lifted a little bit, you know. So it literally is one day at a time, or half a day at a time, depending on whatever day, however you wake up. And it's just be kind to yourself. Just be kind to yourself. You know, grief is such a long process, you know, and like you say, you don't, it's a new way we've got to live, you know. We're living without the person that we love, but it's just doing it slowly. And just be kind to yourself, and allow for you to have rubbish days, but then also allow days where to be happy. And I think that's a big thing. You sometimes you don't forget, but you'll laugh and you'll joke, and then you'll think, oh my god, you know, no, I'm still sad, you know. It's a really weird one, and you battle with yourself constantly. But yeah, so it's just try and be happy as much as you can, but to be kind to yourself as well. You know, you can be happy again, you can smile again, you'll never forget them, and they'll be wanting you to live your life and to remember the good times. And yeah, that's how I'd say.
Thank you, Sian.
I just echo everything you said, Sian. Absolutely everything. And I like I say, I've been very busy with the yellow hearts, nothing else, because it's kind of taken over a bit, but that it's helped me. So I think if you find something that can help you, roll with it, go with it, whatever you need on any one day. And you know, I have days where I get up and I sit on the sofa and I might not move all day, and I'm not being lazy, I just can't function that day. And everybody's story is different, so definitely be kind to yourself. don't get involved with people and start, you know, shouting about it. You know, if they don't believe it, they don't believe it. Let it go. You have to let some things go, because when you get angry, it starts eating into you, and it changes perspectives on everything. And yeah, just and talk. You know, and if the people around you love you enough, they'll just let you go on and repeat yourself. And yeah, just have a day. If you get through a day, that's great. Have a day.
Thanks, Annette.
I was just going to say, echoing everything that Sian says, and Annette, don't be harsh on yourself. You know, if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. Just go with it, you know, and don't feel guilty when you're having a good day either. But I think the thing that I think people just need to remember is there's somebody out there going through exactly what you're going through. You're not alone in this. And if you can find a way of reaching out to somebody, be it through a group or whatever, don't feel, because some people think, oh no, I couldn't do that. Do it, because you don't know the benefits of it until you do. And just reach out. There are people out there, and sometimes it helps when there's total strangers. Sometimes, you know, people out there that are willing to listen and willing to help, and you're helping each other, you know, and it can make you feel so much better about your own situation sometimes when you speak to others. I know you have to be careful not to take other people's grief on as well, but you know, it can give you a little bit of strength sometimes, and we all need that little bit of extra strength every now and again. But just don't be harsh on yourself. Don't beat yourself up about how you're feeling, and oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this, or why am I like this? Like you, Emma, you know, when you was losing it. Don't beat yourself up about it, because it is what it is. It is what it is. You just have to go with the flow. Accept the good days as well as the bad days, and just be at peace with it. And if you need help, reach out.
I think going last, it's quite hard to add anything really, because I think what the other ladies have said sum it up perfectly. I think there's probably an element of just don't compare yourself to others as well. So I've looked at what some people are doing. I'm like, I don't even know how they can do that. Like, where do they get that energy from? How are they doing it? I'm not doing enough. I should be doing more. And then I'm like, do you know what? I'm getting out of bed and I'm looking after my daughter and I'm juggling work as well. And actually, that is enough. That we just. So I think, and certainly it's very easy. And I think as humans, we all do that, don't we? Oh, I'm not as good as her. I'm not as good as him. You know. So I think it's don't compare. But absolutely, you know. If you'd have told me at the start of this year how much support I'd be getting from essentially strangers, I'm quite a closed person. I would never have thought that I'd find that support from people that don't know me. And actually, I think what Lesley said is right. Even if you join groups and you don't say anything, but just sometimes being able to read it and going, oh my God, that's like me, it just gives you a little bit of sense that you're not alone. So that would be the only thing I would add.
Thanks, Emma. So you have all been amazing. This, you know, we could talk, this is a huge topic, isn't it, as well, and we could talk for hours, I guess, on this. So I really just want to say, you know, thank you so much for stepping up and being here today and sharing this conversation with me. You are all beautiful, brave, courageous souls, and yeah, I just want to say a big thank you for all of the work and the you know, the awareness raising that you're all doing as well. So thank you.